Sami was a 10-year-old boy living in a quiet neighborhood with his small family. Every year, he eagerly awaited the arrival of Ramadan. He often heard his parents talk about the joy of this holy month, the beautiful moments of breaking the fast, and the spiritual atmosphere that filled their home. One evening, while sitting on the balcony, Sami heard his mother call him, "Sami, come quickly. Tonight we will watch for the crescent moon. If we see it, it means Ramadan has begun." He jumped up excitedly and ran to his parents, who were holding a small telescope to observe the sky. Sami looked up, searching for the crescent moon with his eager eyes, but he couldn't see it right away. His mother explained, "The crescent starts as a thin sliver of light, and it becomes clearer as time passes. We must wait until the scholars confirm its sighting." Sami sat down on the ground, deep in thought, then asked excitedly, "When will we know for sure? I want to be the first to tell Grandpa and Grandma." His father laughed and said, "When the mosque announces that Ramadan has begun, we will all celebrate." Moments later, the voice of the mosque's announcer echoed, "Tomorrow will be the first day of Ramadan." Sami clapped his hands and shouted joyfully, "Ramadan is here! Ramadan is here!" His mother hugged him and said, "Yes, my dear. Tomorrow we will begin fasting, and it will be a special day." That night, Sami could hardly sleep from excitement. He tossed and turned in his bed, wondering how his first day of fasting would be. Would he be able to endure until sunset? Would it be difficult? Finally, he fell asleep, dreaming of the delicious iftar meal and the magical Ramadan nights. Sami woke up suddenly to the sound of his mother gently shaking him. "What's that sound? Why are we waking up so early?" he asked, rubbing his sleepy eyes. His mother chuckled and said, "It's time for suhoor, the pre-dawn meal that will help us fast throughout the day." At the table, Sami noticed that the meal was different from their usual dinners. There were dates, milk, eggs, bread, and cheese. He curiously asked, "Why do we eat dates?" His mother smiled and replied, "Because it is a tradition of Prophet Muhammad, and they give us long-lasting energy." After finishing his meal, Sami heard the first call to Fajr prayer. He performed ablution with his father and prayed Fajr in the mosque for the first time during Ramadan. The atmosphere felt different, calmer, warmer, and more peaceful. Back home, he decided to rest for a while before school. Before drifting off, he thought about his long day ahead. Will I feel hungry? But he was excited for the challenge. At school, he proudly told his friends, "Today is my first time fasting." They congratulated him, and one of them said, "The most important thing is not to think about food too much." Sami laughed and replied, "I'll try, but it's not easy." As the hours passed, Sami started feeling thirsty. The weather was hot, but he remembered his father's advice. When you feel hungry or thirsty, read the Quran or keep yourself busy with something good. So he opened the small Quran he carried in his bag and read a few verses. Time seemed to move slowly, but he stayed strong. He was proud of himself for not giving in to hunger. Realizing that fasting wasn't just about avoiding food, but also about patience and self-control. When he got home, he found his mother in the kitchen preparing iftar. The delicious aroma filled the house, making his stomach growl. He tried his best to ignore it. He approached his mother and asked, "Mom, can I help?" She smiled and said, "Of course, dear. You can set the table and arrange the dates and water." While arranging the table, he remembered his grandmother once telling him, "Fasting isn't just about not eating. It's about patience, kindness, and being grateful for what we have." An hour before sunset, the whole family gathered around the table, eagerly waiting for the call to Maghrib prayer. The atmosphere was filled with love and anticipation. Finally, the call to prayer echoed. His mother gently held his hand and whispered, "Now break your fast with dates, just like the Prophet did." Sami took a date, placed it in his mouth, and savored its sweetness. It felt like the best thing he had ever tasted. As he drank water, a wave of energy rushed through his body. He realized that fasting was not just a challenge. It was a spiritual journey, teaching him patience and gratitude. After iftar, the family gathered to pray, then sat together listening to Grandma's stories about past Ramadans, how people came together in mosques, shared meals with the poor, and helped one another. Sami listened intently, feeling that Ramadan wasn't just another month, but a time of mercy, forgiveness, and giving. That night, he decided to do something kind. He collected some of his unused toys and books and asked his mother to help him donate them to children in need. When he gave them away, he saw the joy in the other children's eyes. A warm feeling filled his heart. He finally understood the true meaning of giving. That night, as he lay in bed, he felt happy and at peace. Ramadan had not only taught him to fast, but also to be more patient, kind, and grateful. The next morning, he woke up with the same excitement, ready for another day of fasting, prayer, and kindness. As the days went by, Sami grew more attached to Ramadan. He loved the special atmosphere, especially the Taraweeh prayers, which he attended with his father every night. Each night, he prayed to Allah to make him a better person and bring him back to Ramadan next year, closer to faith. When Ramadan ended, he felt a sense of sadness, but he knew the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever. On the night of Eid, he dressed in his finest clothes, feeling that Ramadan had given him a new heart, one that was purer and more content. Looking up at the sky, he whispered, "Thank you, Ramadan. I will wait for you again next year." Morale of the story: Ramadan is not just about fasting. It's a school of patience, generosity, mercy, and gratitude.